So, what if you could just talk to your data models? I mean, really have a conversation with them. Today, we're diving into a really clever open source project that does exactly that. It gives Power BI a direct line to conversational AI, and trust me, it's changing the game for data pros.
Okay, just picture this for a second. You don't have to manually click through 100 different dependencies. Instead, you just type something like, hey, rename the dim customer table to dim customer. And poof, it just works. No broken visuals, no scary error messages. That's the dream, right? Well, that's what we're going to unpack today.
At its core, the Power BI MCP server is basically a universal translator. It lets AI assistants, like Anthropic's Claude, understand and actually do things with your data models. It's the bridge between plain English and structured data. But to really get why this is such a big deal, we need to talk about a problem every single Power BI developer has nightmares about.
Oh man, we've all been there. If you've ever poured your heart and soul into a complex report, you know that feeling, that absolute dread of making one tiny change that could bring the whole thing crashing down.
It seems so innocent, doesn't it? You just want to clean things up, apply some better naming conventions, maybe change fact_sales to fact sales so it looks nicer. But you pause, your hand hovering over the keyboard, because you just know this one little change could unleash a whole cascade of errors across dozens of visuals you spent weeks building. So you take a deep breath, you make the change, you refresh your report, and yep, there it is. That dreaded error message, staring back at you again and again and again. Your beautiful, interactive dashboard is now a barren wasteland of broken visuals. So why? Why does this keep happening?
Well, to fix the problem, you first have to understand the architecture. The real reason your reports break is because a Power BI file isn't just one single thing. Nope, it's really a story of two very distinct, very separate layers.
I mean, that's the fundamental question, right? If you rename something in the data model, why in the world doesn't the report just know? Why is there this massive disconnect?
This slide really breaks it down. On the left, you've got the semantic model. Just think of this as the what. It's your data, your tables, your columns, all your DAX logic. And on the right, you've got the report definition. That's the how. It's the pretty visual layer that decides how everything looks. They are two totally separate worlds, just living inside the same file.
Here it is. This is the smoking gun. Your standard tools, even Microsoft's own Tabular Object Model, or TOM, they can only talk to one of those layers, the semantic model. So yeah, they can rename tables, they can update formulas, but they are completely, utterly blind to the report definition. They literally cannot touch the visual layer. That's the missing link.
So how do you solve a problem that stumps even the official tools? Well, you start looking at how Power BI itself is changing. And that leads us to a really cool breakthrough format that changes, well, pretty much everything.
The hero of our story is the Power BI project file, or PBIP. Now, unlike the old PBIX file, which was like a locked black box, a PBIP file basically unzips your entire project into a folder full of human-readable text files. And here's the crucial part. It gives you separate files for the data model and the report definition, all sitting there side by side. Okay, so the Power BI MCP server leverages this brilliantly. Its connector is smart. First, it scans that project folder and finds all the right files. Then it does a simple find and replace on the text files that define your data model. But, and this is the magic trick, it also opens up the report's JSON file and does the exact same find and replace on all the visual references. It's editing both layers at the same time.
And the result? Well, it's exactly what we were dreaming about at the beginning. You can now do massive refactoring jobs, rename tables, columns, whatever you want, and because both the data layer and the visual layer get updated together in sync, not a single visual breaks. The problem is just solved.
But look, solving this massive refactoring headache is awesome, but it's really just the tip of the iceberg. The MCP server is so much more than a one-trick pony. It's a full-blown toolkit for using AI to mess with your Power BI models. In fact, it exposes over 30, that's 30, distinct tools to an AI assistant. And these tools cover the whole shebang. Everything from your local Power BI desktop file to datasets in the cloud and even managing security.
This slide just gives you a little taste, right? You've got tools for local desktop stuff, like running a DAX query. You can manage your cloud workspaces. You can even test your row-level security. Just think about that.
You could ask the AI, show me the report as a sales manager from the UK, and it would instantly test if your security rules are working correctly. And of course, you've got those safe editing tools we just talked about.
Now, you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds cool, but giving an AI direct access to my company's data, that sounds kind of scary. And you'd be absolutely right to think that. This is a serious consideration, which is why this tool was built from the ground up with security as the #1 priority. This is so clever. The tool has a built-in detector for personally identifiable information, or PII. So before any data is sent off to the AI, it gets scanned for things like emails, credit cards, you name it. If it finds anything sensitive, it gets automatically masked, which means that sensitive data never, ever leaves your environment.
And it doesn't stop there. Every single query that runs is logged for auditing, which is absolutely critical for compliance stuff like GDPR or HIPAA. You can set up your own access policies to completely block the AI from even seeing certain columns like social security numbers or revenue. And all of this security works whether you're connected to a local file on your machine or to the Power BI cloud service.
All right, let's just pull this all together. We started with that super frustrating problem of reports breaking every time you rename something. We saw how the split between the model and report layers is the real culprit, and how the new PBIP format gives us a really elegant way to fix it. And then we saw that this is just one feature in a huge suite of over 30 tools, all wrapped up in a serious enterprise-grade security framework.
So, this leaves us with one last thing to think about. We've just looked at a very technical solution to a very technical problem. But the implications here are so much bigger. When you can interact with and query and even change complex data models just by using plain English, well, that lowers the barrier to entry for everyone. It means business analysts might not need to wait for a BI developer to make simple changes anymore. It really opens up a whole new world for how we think about data, and more importantly, who gets to work with it.